I was so excited to get rolling today. I skipped up the stairs to the studio today.
That didn't happen. That's not true.
It happened. No, it happened.
There's no way.
This is all new ground. This is Baby's first review. You're reviewing a book for the first time.
Does this count? I thought this was more of an argument. I'm ready to yell at you.
No, we're supposed to have scores. We got. We're not dueling. We're just.
I'm just excited to yell at you.
Welcome back to Talking Story. Hey, my name is John Minton. That right there is my literary wingman, best producer on BookTube. And if you don't believe me, check bathroom walls in your neighborhood, in your area, because the verbiage is up there in stalls galore across the country, across the globe. Right there. Who are you?
That's me.
Throw your name out.
My name's Jakob.
Hey, this is big. This is big today.
I think so. I'm excited.
You're crossing the tape. You're coming in for a landing on becoming a booktuber. This is your first review. We've got book one of two massive fantasy series that we have started. Yes. And we're each going to review.
And you have your lovely new edition that came in, it looks like.
Ooh, look at this.
Look how pretty that is.
Look how gorgeous. That is the fall of Pale right there.
You must be so proud. I have no idea what that means.
Someday you will, I hope. But should we look? I know people are excited. What do you tell me? You've started a massive fantasy series.
Yes.
You've done book one. Let me see it. Let me see book one.
You are doing Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erickson. That paper's not supposed to be there. I am doing Curse of the Mistwraiths, book one of The Wars of Light and Shadow by Janny Wurts, which was astounding. I've said that before.
Well, don't give it away.
I've said that in so many other videos.
Okay, look, I'm popping that. You know what? That makes me pop my top right there. That's how excited I am to do.
I don't like the sound of that.
To do a review with you. Look, I know we talked about we'll look at the beginning of two big series, but I just want to get scores out, kind of mark it in stone of how we felt about starting these massive big series that we're getting into, so we can look back and see how it changed. Because to compare these it's like apple pie in a cathedral. They both are just so unbelievably magnificent. I think it wouldn't be fair.
Yeah. Well, I think if we were making comparisons, you did make Gardens of the Moon your book of the month, and you did not make Curse of the Mistwraith your book of the month.
I know, just but it's like that. It just could be what. So both of these didn't make my book of the month when I read them, but you haven't read this, so there's no way to kind of go back and forth in comparison.
I thought Gardens of the Moon
Gardens was my book of the month.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. I got old man brain. I'm a OMB sufferer. You give me some slack. So look, we're going to go through the 5 categories like we always do here on the channel.
Let's do it.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is going to be exciting. Okay, let's start off with world building. And I want you. Now you can go full star, a quarter to a full star for each category, and then we add them up at the end.
Yeah, I've been here before.
Okay. You know what? You sleep through a lot. That's why I gotta.
That is kind of true.
No, there's no doubt about it. I wish if I had control of the button, I would spin that camera around and catch you all the time.
There's a lot of opportunity. I'm going full star on world building for Curse of the Mistwraith. I mean, this is, if anybody is into 80s dark fantasy, this is that book. This is full-blown 80s dark fantasy, very expansive world, and yet it just, at times, goes beyond the dark fantasy category because it's just a full spectrum world. There is the fantastical, there's the terrifying, there's the beautiful, and there's the tragic of this society that used to exist of these godly figures before the residents of current age Aethera that have now gone, and I won't get into the stories of why and all of that. You have to read to find out. But this to me it blew my hair back, I might say.
Oh, wow.
And you're just guided through it by an absolute master. To be following these two characters that have no idea what's going on in this world and be speaking to these masters of wizardry and sorcery and be learning as they go on. It was every little piece of candy of how this world works was given to you at just the right moment so that you're not lost, you're not overwhelmed, you understand everything you need, and yet you're begging for answers to all of your questions as you go. It was truly amazing.
I completely agree with that. And the one thing I would add is that it's astounding in itself is there's portal fantasy in this series, so there's more than one
This is
world.
not the only world. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
before we even
where's
left,
that going to go?
I'm sure there will be going to other worlds as well. But before we even left Dustin Allure, that felt like a full world, and we were there for not long.
3
chapters, maybe. Less than that, actually.
It was pretty quick. Yeah. It just kind of kicked off some inciting incidents and relationships, and then we were really thrown headlong into Etheria.
Yeah. And then I have to mention the creatures. To me,
this is your review.
I won't say too much, but a monster made of hateful souls gets plus 1,000 points for me. That's just awesome.
I can't dispute that. I'll give you that.
Full star for me. Deserves every quarter of that star. It earned it.
Full star for world building?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's where I'm coming in at Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erickson.
Okay.
I got to go full star. This is like the star category for this book. This is so... Every locale you go to in this book, which there are quite a few. Every locale you go to, not only is there a story of that locale in this window of time that you're visiting it, whether it be the city of Pale or Darujistan, wherever it is you're going, outside Darujistan where these hidden tombs are, wherever it is, wherever that locale is, not only is there a story to be told at that locale in this world at the time that you're peeking through this window and getting the story, it is just dripping with history and lore and past of what has come before this moment of time that you're watching this story. So the world is completely fleshed out, more than three-dimensional. Not only do we have a terrestrial history of this planet and the political intrigue and machinations that's going on from country to country, you also have the metaphysical realm that you're introduced to of these ascended characters that are also interfering with the plots and intrigues that are going on. So you've got the expanded history of not only terrestrial, but metaphysical, spiritual, if you will. So there is so much myth and legend and lore, and it all has such weight. It has such gravitas when these characters get immersed in it in the locales where they travel to, and as they're traveling, it is absolutely the star of the show for this book for me. It brings you, not only does it bring you wonder and awe, it also brings some nightmare fuel for you. Because some of the things that happen, some of the things that have happened in the past that you're starting to learn are just truly terrifying in a way, absolutely terrifying. And the world building of this, the last thing I will say is Mr. Steven Erickson, one of the things that I so enjoyed about this book was just the unbridled, sheer creativity of it. If somebody's going to throw themselves headlong into a story, and a long story, because I believe this is 10 or 11 volumes, just the Book of the Fallen, and then there's a whole other series that tie into this world. So once you're going into this, and I know this started out as a screenplay, once you're going into it, you go into it just so wholeheartedly. You give everything to it. There is so much creativity. There is so much wonder. There is so much just bonkers ideas to this that I haven't ever seen in a fantasy story before. It's like, wow, that's just not... I know dragons and orcs and trolls and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! But there's stuff in here that's like, okay, where'd that guy? I never have seen that before. That's just off the chain bonkers. And he's just throwing it all in, including the kitchen sink. So I really loved the creativity. I really loved just the best part, some of the funnest moments of art for me is when you're watching the artist at play. And I absolutely got the feeling in the world building here that Steven Erickson was just having a ball and just playing. And if it was more world building than the story could take, even maybe it could have been more streamlined. Maybe the plot could have been more directed and pointed. Maybe the characters could have been cut down and honed. You know what? Forget about it. He was at play and he was just running like a boy in the field, having fun, throwing all of this in there. And for world building, I absolutely loved it. It was just off the chart, crazy creative. Star of the show for this book for me was the world building. 1 full star.
See, now we have a problem because this is not what I expected to be happening this video. Now I want to read that book.
You should want to read this book. But
I don't have time to read that book is the problem.
Everyone should want to read this book.
Oh, man.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on to Plot. You're up, my brother. How is Curse of the Mistwraith for Plot?
Man, this is I had to send an email to Janny after I finished this book, and the thing that I started off the email by telling her was that there is one word that comes to mind when I think of Curse of the Mistwraith, and it's uncompromising.
That's a good word.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But this is, I mean, not only world spanning, but worlds spanning of a series. And yet it is so focused. There are so many different machinations and motivations and groups that have different goals and objectives that clash with one another, and different kingdoms or townships or even just communities that hate each other because of this history that we're learning as we move along. And nobody seems to like each other. Nobody seems to want to work together. And yet we're all moving in the same direction. It's just a matter of how we get there and who comes out on top when we do get there. And to have that many balls up in the air and still have a clear objective in such a complicated world, I thought was an absolute feat. Like a full star from me for Plot.
Wow.
To see everything come together that way was brilliant.
I will say the second half of that book, it really hits on rails, and just the forward momentum for
it narrows. Yeah.
The ending, just it's so pointed and driven and pushed. Absolutely what you would want.
Which I'll get into some of my thoughts there when we get to Pace, but
sure.
The second half of the book is absolutely where it shines. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for Plot.
Okay.
I'm going to go Gardens of the Moon here for me for Plot. I'm going to go 3/4 star. I'm going to take a little bit off. I'm going to take a little bit off here. Now, the reason being, the plot is expansive and wonderful, and I was pulled in, and I really loved it. Starting at the beginnings of an empire falling, and then after the coup rising up again, and the political machinations and intrigue that are following it, we're thrust into these military campaigns where the city of Pale is falling. And then we're understanding soldiers on the ground. There might still be some buy-in to more of my compatriots here than the new leadership. And what does that mean? What is the new leadership really doing? And then where do we go from Pale but to Darujistan as kind of like a black ops? The bridge burners going in there to start to cause some unrest before the rest of the army shows up, and all of these machinations and intrigue work, and I had a great time, and I could follow it You do hear a lot of times it's very complex and so hard to follow. I absolutely could follow it and enjoyed it. But what I will say is the mystery of it sometimes I found would tend to slow it down. We're not quite sure all the time what each character, now each character has agency and desires and dreams and they're pushing for them in these motivations. But we're not, it takes a while for us to understand what side they're on and which way they're trying to pull the rope and what exactly is going on. So sometimes these motivations that are hidden tended to slow down the plot a bit for me. I wasn't quite sure which way the wind was blowing with all these groups of characters and what exactly. So I didn't quite know who to root for. I didn't quite know how the plot was progressing at times. As a world-spanning look at this empire, either expanding or contracting due to this coup and what that means to all the other lands around it. It was, again, an amazing introduction to the world. The plot itself, I think, sometimes because so many facets of it were hidden that you discovered as you went along, tended to get in the way of the plot a little bit for me. And then when you're just dropping so many characters on top of not quite knowing where everybody's side, what they're on and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve and who they're really against and who they're really for and many times who they really are, because these characters change and morph not only their names but deep down into what they are and who they are and what they believe. So as all these changes take place, the plot doesn't stay pointed and focused and moving in one direction. It's kind of just amorphous and all over and sprawling. And that did get in the way a little bit for me. I would have liked to have been a little bit more pointed and driven in one direction. So I'm just going to take a quarter of a star off because still, it was enormously enjoyable to see what's going on in this world.
Sure, yeah. Nothing wrong with a 3/4 star.
Oh, come on.
Not bad by any means.
I couldn't take more than that off because I still found it so fascinating.
Right, yeah. And yet, Curse of the Mistwraith pulling ahead, I'm noticing.
Yeah. I see that. I see that. I know you love this book. So let's get into characters. And I know this is one, your list is going to be way shorter than my list in this category.
Why is that? Could it be because you have 40 characters?
Because this is a cast of thousands. Yeah.
Character for me is, I got to go back to what I said, what I emailed to Janny is that this book is uncompromising. And really the main reason that I told her that was, to me, a lot of the time when I read genre, I think you can see what an author's strengths are. They're amazing at world building. They can construct a great plot. And sometimes the characters just kind of move along, and world building and plot is their strength, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But this book does not compromise. Amazing world building, fantastic plot, and some of Janny Wurts' characters are probably my favorite characters in fantasy. And I haven't read a lot of fantasy, so that's not a massive claim, but they may just be some of my favorite characters of all time, going back to the Gallant, which I loved as well. And I'll focus on the two that are kind of the main characters here in this book. That we can start with Lysair Celessid, the two princes that we're starting with, who is kind of starting with the archetype of the beautiful prince, flowing blonde hair, very good with a sword. A lot of women into this man because he's so beautiful, but
sure,
he is centered on the idea of justice. And you could hand this man a grand opportunity and he would go, this isn't right. There's something wrong with this and we need to fix it because it doesn't align with my views of justice. Therefore, I will not accept this opportunity. It doesn't align with my values.
From what we've always been taught about icons, the absolute hero.
The absolute hero, yeah.
Everything there to be a hero.
Which is not a trait usually paired with the beautiful prince that's great with a sword. It's a very interesting character. And I love the way that she combines archetypes for people that typically don't go together, but it works so well. And then we have Erathon, the other prince, who is raised by... We don't have too much backstory yet, but raised by a man who we can assume is pretty awful. He's the Prince of Shadows, very looked down upon historically. We learn from the prologue, and yet centered in compassion, truly cares.
Empathy,
truly cares about the experiences that other people are going through below him, even though he is a prince, because he has been on the bottom before and he knows what that is like to be hated and treated unfairly. And possibly my favorite trait about this person is he just wants to play the Labyrinth. He doesn't want any responsibility. He would love to just disappear and play music. But
dude just wants to make art, man.
Yeah.
Just wants to be an artist. Yeah.
But he's burdened with the responsibility of these prophecies that he is attached to. Character is another full star for me. These are fantastic characters.
I see a theme coming your way.
There is absolutely a theme. Like to get to the end of the book and face the moral dilemmas that these characters are forced into to grapple with their own alignment and compassion and justice, and they're being forced to make decisions they may not want to make. It's a lose-lose for them. And for me to feel like I'm right there with them, like, God, I'm sorry you have to make this decision.
Yeah.
And
you know them so well by that point,
exactly.
Right? Like you know them.
To be right there with them at the end of a first book in a series, I thought was really impressive.
All right, let's hit characters here for Gardens of the Moon. Okay, I'm just going to rattle off a few.
Please,
okay?
Please do.
And this is not even scratching the surface.
Okay.
Like not even scratching the surface. Tattersail, Whiskey Jack, Tavor, Animander Rake. Sorry. That's Derek, I could go on and on and on. This is a cast of thousands, and I don't mean a cast of thousands in that Shakespearean way there's 27 of them back here just carrying spears to make my set look good. No, every single one of these is important and has an agenda and has motivation that they're following and has intrigue behind them. If is that really their motivation or is something else their motivation, or are they being moved by these ascendant, these deities? Are they being moved one way or another to where they don't even understand or truly know what their own agendas are? They're just pawns and being used. The characters are so varied. There's archetypes. There's real people. Each one of them, again, has agency, has motivation, and you are following it. And as these things are unveiled to you as you're moving through, like I kind of alluded to in the plot, you're learning more and more about them. And the other thing I will say about characters here, Mr. Erickson is not afraid to put them through the meat grinder and kill his darlings. Like he will make them suffer. He will find a scab and go, does this place hurt? And mash as hard as they can, like my Uncle Jay used to do to me when I was a kid, just to see me grimace. Like he is not going to take it easy on these characters. He is going to see how they respond to some of the harshest nightmare fuel that his bonkers creativity can throw in this book. Where I had a bit of a problem, the bridge burners led by Whiskey Jack, the wizard on the run, Tattersail, this this boy that you start with at the fall of an empire that lives to become a soldier. All of these amazing characters that you're following and all of these things that are happening to them through the story, I could have had more emotional investment. I sometimes felt there was so much packed into this book, so much coming our way, and so many characters to be split between as far as POVs go, that I did not quite get an emotional core that I would want for enough of them to when these moments of high drama and brutal violence happen, that I would feel more of an emotional response right along with them. So I felt we could have delved a little bit deeper into their emotional core to give me that attachment to character, to help me live vicariously through them, even though it was an amazing cast and a varied cast, and he put them through the meat grinder. I was just missing that little oomph that makes me feel like I'm on the journey with them and living through all of these high drama emotional moments. So for that little lack of emotional core, and this is something everyone has told me in comments that, oh my gosh, hit Dead House Gates and you're going to have emotional core that you more than you can handle. So I can't wait for that. But I'm going to take a quarter off again for character just for that lack of emotional core here. I'm going 3/4 star for characters, cast of thousands here in Gardens of the Moon.
So half star off so far. Still pretty good.
So far.
Wow. All right.
Hey, before we finish out,
Okay.
should we take this opportunity to thank a few people?
Absolutely. Too many people to thank. Cast of
Oh my
thousands,
gosh.
one might say.
A cast of thousands to thank, and let me tell you, I know their emotional core. They are amazing people. Check them out right here.
Thanks, everybody.
Just a quick break in the action to thank all of our correspondents, directors, and producers on Patreon. These people keep the lights on. They make decisions for us because we don't know what we're doing. We're not great at making the decisions around here. The decisions all the way from what I'm going to read next, what the book club of the month Patreon pick is going to be, but all the way up to video ideas and what we're going to do here on the channel coming up for you. If you're interested or you want to find out how you can be a part of this, right down there in the description box, click the Patreon link. It's got all the answers for you. And once again, thank you to all of these fine people that are helping us build the channel, our correspondents, directors, and producers. All right, welcome back. So you not only Patreon, but right down there, we've got our Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Discord.
There you go.
All of it for you to explore and check out. The Discord is popping, man. There's so many people. There's so many read-alongs. There's so much going on there. Check that out. Check all of it out. It's all right there for you to explore.
All kinds of stuff they're doing for, they're calling it March of Darkness. All kinds of stuff happening in there. Feel free to check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and all the links are there for you. And thanks to everyone that makes this fun and possible for us. Should we jump into what's left? Pace? You ready for Pace?
I'm ready.
I'm almost positive I know what you're going to give it.
Well,
show me.
Here's what I was thinking for. I almost took a 1/4 star off for Pace.
Really?
Almost. I decided against it. So spoiler, full star for Pace. But I thought about taking it off because the first half of this book is. Part of it could have been my experience because everybody, read ahead of me because I read slow, and everyone said, man, the second half of this book, you're going to love it. It's just a downhill ride. So I was just kind of waiting to get to that.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite feel like a drag, but it felt like I'm really looking forward to when things happen, things go down.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about taking a 1/4 star off for that, but then I really thought about the book as a whole. And that second half of the book is a downhill ride, but I don't think that it functions if you don't have the first half of the book. Because there's so much happening. There's so many different motivations that you have to understand, not only what the motivations are, but why they exist to truly enjoy the second half of the book with these, wizards that are kind of larger than life and viewing the world of Aethera from such a bird's eye view. It takes so long to get used to that if you just had the downhill ride, you'd be so lost and overwhelmed.
Yeah. So
I full star for me. Like I don't think the story could be told any other way than it is in the book.
Yeah. That could be one of those things where hype maybe got in the way a little bit.
I think so. Yeah.
And you're smart to really go back and look at it in your own way, because you're so right. Without the construction of laying all those dominoes out, you can't knock them over at the end. You've got to take
you have
the time
to
build that
find
up.
the connection to the status quo before you wreck it.
Yeah.
You don't get the payoff if you don't wait for it. So I just got caught up with waiting because everyone was telling me how great the payoff was, but that was on me.
So, do you have anything else, or that wraps you for Pace?
That kind of, I could say beyond that, like the chapters are themselves as a standalone fantastic. That was the only thing within the book that gave me pause, and I think it was just my experience. Other than that, still, this is somebody that is a master at work and knows exactly how to tell you a story with, stimulus, reaction, repeat. Janny, we've talked to her before and I'm messing up her system, but she has a system of how to get the pace correct. I'll have to check my notes later, but you
better.
She's got an equation and it works, man. She's a master.
Yeah. She is. So, Pace, look, this is my lowest category for this book.
Wow. Okay. Half star off?
And there's two reasons. There's two reasons why I'm Pace. Again, I think sometimes so much of this being shrouded and hidden, and the mystery being doled out to you, being so sprawling and so grand and so complex, there are times that it's like, man, it just seems to be moving a trifle slow for me because I'm not getting. There's so much to get, and it has to come at a slow drip, or really you wouldn't be able to wrap your head around it. But it's at a slow drip because so the complexity of it in itself makes you slow down. There are moments. This is not going to be a page turner. Not going to be a page turner. You've got to actually think about the themes and think about the characters and think about the world and think about how the puzzle pieces are coming together and why they may not come together. And it's more of a meditation on a lot of these things. And there are certain times that I would just have to finish a chapter or a moment and go, okay, so that, all right, let's just, let's think about that for a minute and link that together for a second. So I don't think it's supposed to be, I think the pace is supposed to be very methodical and meditative. So as those mysteries become unraveled in front of you, they take some time. The complexity of the story itself, I feel, gets in the way of it being a page turner. And then the very end, I would say the last act, the last reel. This did start out as a screenplay. So the last act and all of the falling action in the arc here stutters for me because there's so many quick cuts between so many POVs because you have so many characters on the field enwrapped in so many plot threads that you have to try and tie them so many, and you're jumping from one to the other to the other and there'll be moments where it's just this much of a paragraph and then a jump, this much of a paragraph and a jump. So it's got this stutter effect. It's almost like, as opposed to having a fluid cinema feel. Now, if I was watching this, it would be quite exciting as we quick cut between so many things happening on the field at the end. In prose, it seemed to have this bit of a almost flicker or stutter effect, which seemed to slow the pace down for me. I could never stay with a POV long enough to get invested in this falling action by the last act or the third reel, if you were, or the last reel, the third act, because of the jumping and the skipping around so much. So that impacted pace for me in the last act when everything should have ramped up. There was plenty going on, high excitement, high drama, but it just stuttered for me, and it seemed to just, as opposed to flow and make me turn pages to get to the end when the excitement hit, it just, it fits and starts, moved through the end. And I kind of think that might be because of where, the medium it started in and as it transferred over maybe, or this is maybe just
yeah, that's
just for me, it didn't work. Other people, it might work great. So for pace, I'm going a half a star.
Okay. Okay. That's what I thought we were moving toward a half star there. That's so interesting that the actual half star there for pace might be because of the author's inability to have a good pace, but it's actually just the transfer of medium of the story originally being a screenplay.
That, and I think it's in the beginning, like you were talking about for Curse of the Mistwraith.
Right.
You're learning about these people and this world and the way their inner workings, how their soul works. So when all this happens at the back end, you know how it's impacted. This, we're learning about how all these threads tie together and who's trying to do what to who and maybe be pushed and coerced and who they're trying to push and coerce. And you've learned all these things, but it takes time and it is meditative and it is a bit of a slower process to get all that locked up in here and learn that and then get ready for that last reel. And then because the last reel does have so many POVs jumping around for me, it didn't pay off in pace at the end.
So by the time you get to the falling action, it feels like I'm learning. Falling action begins, but I'm not ready. I'm still learning.
I was ready.
Oh, okay.
But there was just so many POVs, and he skipped from head to head to head to head to head.
Right. Okay.
to character to character to character to character in the end that I didn't get a good chunk of runway with any one person before I would jump to another.
Interesting.
And that jump would make me go, okay, well, let me build up momentum again with this next person where they are, what they're doing. Okay, I'm over here now. Let me build that up. And I just felt like there was a stutter effect because there was so many characters and so many threads to tie up by the end.
But with a camera, you can maybe control that momentum
with a camera,
easier.
Oh, think about a battlefield where you've got 15 to 20 POVs and how they've been involved in this enormous city, and is it going to fall or is it not going to fall, and these deities are going to come down and have an impact, and as it jumps from one to the other, is their little plan going to work? Are the bridge burners going to be able to... I don't want to give too much away,
sure,
but are they going to be able to sway everything one way? Are these Ascended going to be able to come down and stop it all, or help them, or the ones in the city that are trying to change things for all of these different people have a different motivation, and they're at cross purposes. Sometimes they're at the same purposes, but they don't even know. And you're going from one to the other to see who's going to win and how it's going to tie up. And it's dizzying to a point where it just doesn't seem to flow at the end.
But with a camera, you can do different things, like bring in some music and do a montage as you move from different characters. You can go bird's eye view.
Think
and
about that ending.
You can use sound to move to a different place. Yeah, all different kinds of things.
So many plot threads across a huge sprawling battlefield, not only of humans but gods, and you're skipping from one to the other. How all these things happen, and it would be thrilling.
It'd probably be really cool, actually.
Oh, it would be absolutely wonderfully thrilling. Just in the prose, it did not flow for me. Now, other people may absolutely adore it, and I completely understand that. There's so much going on and so much to appreciate. For me, it slowed the pace down a bit, so I'm going to go half star.
Interesting. Still impressive. Transfer of medium, regardless.
For what he did, I mean, I'm knocked out, completely knocked out, by this book and this world and this achievement. So that just leaves us with one left.
And you know how I feel about it.
That is Prose.
You know how I feel about
this. There is no doubt what you're going to give it. So just go ahead and throw it out there.
Quarter star. No, it's a full star. Janny Wurts is known for her prose. It's brilliant. And I kind of have like a little... It gives me strong feelings to think about people reading Janny's prose and thinking, too dense for me, not my vibe, which... If things aren't your vibe, that's okay. But don't...
Everybody's got what they like.
Sure, yeah. Don't not try it. Because this is really transform. Like, we could all be looking back at this series and going, that changed a lot. That's a modern classic. The amount of things that this woman was able to accomplish, not only with her prose, but world building and character, regardless of how much energy she spent on each of these categories, she still had enough to have fantastic prose, fantastic characters. It was uncompromising. And to think that people would go, I'm not a fan of dense prose, I'm not going to give it a shot, is a loss to me. If anybody is thinking of becoming an author or even vaguely interested in writing in any medium, you should read this. There's so many things for you to learn. And even if you don't love it, there are lessons there for you.
There's still a lot to learn.
There's still a lot to learn. And even if you're not thinking of becoming an author, if you're just a fan of fantasy, there's so much for you to enjoy here beyond some dense prose that may not be your vibe. And like I said, if it's not your vibe, it's not your vibe, that's okay. But give it a shot. It deserves the shot from everybody.
Yeah. I would, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that word uncompromising. There's not a category we can think about where this artist didn't go on her journey and transform herself to be able to deliver the story she wanted to deliver.
Yeah. And we've been talking to her a little bit about what she's writing now. And obviously that's not our place to say. I don't know if she's announced it anywhere or not, but from what I've heard from her, the way that she works is she will work and then go, it's not perfect yet. And then do it again and go, it's not perfect yet. And just keep going until she can't push it any further. And in her mind, it's perfect. And in my mind, it's perfect too. Like she pushes the boundaries as far as she can in every category. She doesn't give up. And it's amazing to see.
Wow. So this is a 5-star book 1 for you.
This is a 5-star book 1. It makes me feel like every book in this series might be a 5-star.
Wow.
With the amount of books in here, maybe that's not true. But it gives me a lot of hope and excitement for what comes next.
I mean, to start a series with that feeling, there's nothing like it, man. Is there a little bit of prose you want to read? Like, is there something like you just want to...
Oh, man. I didn't have any ready. I got to... there's so many different things I could pick. I don't know if I can find something in time. I will give a quick memory that when you and Mom were out of town and when I was reading The Gallant, which is obviously not this book, but it's still her prose, or The Gallant, sorry. I was reading that on my Kindle and I went in the backyard and I was just reading on the back porch. And there was a sentence I read that was just as simple as the sunlight coming down and hitting a field. And it had rained or misted a little bit that morning. And, you know, the sprinkles or the sparkles were happening with the water droplets on the tips of the grass blades. And the way that she worded it, I wish I had the sentence saved, made me put down my Kindle and just walk around for 5 minutes. I would imagine if I sat down to try and write a sentence like that, I would spend an hour trying and couldn't get there. And it's just one sentence. I don't know how she does it.
It's something. It is something. I will say, is that wrap for you on prose?
That's wrap for me on prose.
Okay, I don't want to. Okay. So prose for me is up there with world building here with Steven Erickson. He can... he's got a lot of tools in his belt. Now, the tools that I'm missing that I've said, it's like I'd like a little bit more emotional core here. I'd like a little bit more of a driving feel for Pace. You know, these kind of things. I think these kind of things are going to happen as this series moves on because I've heard from people that I really trust, you know, that the themes and the characters and how they grow and how they, just infect your soul and how you start to feel about them and for them. All those kind of things are coming. But what he does not have to work on for me is his turn of phrase. There are some beautiful, lovely turns of phrase here. And when I say this is almost a meditative read, it is that read where I don't want to go too fast through it because I want to soak in and enjoy every word. The world building works because of the tools that this man has. The gravitas and the weight of story and time that has passed before in this locale that you're in at this moment is relayed so perfectly by his words. He introduces so many characters. And again, I was missing a bit of emotional core, but I could see them all. I could see every location. I could feel the weight of what has happened before and the weight of what's happening there and how it affects everything that's going on in this plot that we're currently enmeshed in. So his ability to describe and hide the mysterious until he wants to reveal it and just take you to another place. Look, I'm just going to read a little bit just from the very beginning of page 1 because he's opening up at a coup as an empire is falling and a young boy is on the ramparts looking down at this happen. And it's just so beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And this is just you open this to the prologue.
Okay.
And this will give you a little bit of a feeling of what's going on here. The stains of rust seem to map blood seas on the black, pocked surface of Mock's vein. A century old, it squatted on the point of an old pike that had been bolted to the outer top of the hole's wall. Monstrous and misshapen, it had been cold hammered into the form of a winged demon, teeth bared in a leering grin, and was tugged and buffeted in squealing protest with every gust of wind. The winds were contrary. The day columns of smoke rose over the mouse quarter of Malaz City, the vain silence announced the sudden falling off of the sea breeze that came clamoring over the ragged walls of Mock's hold. Then it creaked back into life as the hot, spark-scattered and smoke-filled breath of the Mouse Quarter reached across the city to sweep the promontory's heights. Like, that's just describing the wind hitting a wind vane as the city burns and smoke fills the air.
That's pretty amazing.
So you're completely taken there. You completely see it. You completely feel it. He just comes just out of the gates with every tool in the belt that he's able to pull out as an author and just transport you and take you and make you feel and see and be in a locale as huge events are happening. And as it goes on, you see huge events have happened in the past that have the gravitas that have led to this moment. And huge events will happen in the future. It makes it so real and realized, and he describes it in a way that is so artful and transports you. Just full star for me on Prose. Absolutely full star for me on Prose. His writing is an achievement.
Wow, man. So that comes out to 4.25 stars?
It comes out to 4.
Oh, 4 stars flat. Okay.
4 stars flat. So you had 5. I have 4. We're both starting an exciting journey of a series that I feel
massive every
bit of confidence I can say there's no way this doesn't crash my all-time list.
I feel the exact same way about Wars of Light and Shadow. I'm sure I would feel the same way if I had started Malazan by now.
Yeah. But, I mean, I cannot wait to start Deadhouse Gates and see where this goes next. And I know you can't wait to start Ships of Merrier. I know you have it planned, I believe, for July, and you're having a hard time waiting. So
yeah, I think I'm doing Ships of Merrier in June, which is my birthday month. That'll be really fun. When are you picking up Deadhouse Gates?
I haven't planned it yet, but it's going to be pretty quick.
Okay.
Like I'm going to try and squeeze it in pretty quick because I really want to get back to this world. I really want to see. Once he adds an emotional core that everyone tells me about, I really want to see what happens. You add that last chemical into this alchemy that he can do as an artist and the world that he's created, it's going to just explode. It's just going to explode for me. It kind of already has, and I have a hard time not thinking about it and not thinking about these characters, so I can't wait to get back to it.
That's the best, man. When you start a new book and it's just, even though you keep reading other things and you move on, it's still with you.
It just pulls you.
Yeah.
It pulls you. Yeah, absolutely.
You'll be starting the next book soon, I'm sure, if that's what's happening.
Exciting times.
Very exciting
time. So let us know. These are kind of the 2 series we're starting. Full reviews for 2 big heavyweights in the fantasy genre. Book 1s. It was so much fun to do it with you, buddy. And let us know what's on tap for you. Are you starting that series that you haven't started for a long time? Do you think maybe you're going to start Malazan now that you've heard this? Because I know a lot of people are kind of, maybe it's a little bit too much for me. It's a little bit too complex. Or they think they hear the same thing about Curse of the Mistwraith. They think, maybe this is this is not my vibe. I know the prose is not, it's not lickety split. It's not easy. It's something that I'm going to have to focus on. Let us know if we swayed you at all. Let us know if you're starting a series that is just kind of pulling you and not letting you go, not letting you move on to other things, but just keeps pulling you back when you try and get a little bit of a break from it. Has it infected your soul the way story can? Hit us up in comments and let us know all this. The whole reason we started this channel was to talk back and forth about books with people that love books, love the kind of books we love. We're going to answer every comment that comes in. We're going to answer it as quickly as we possibly can because that's the whole reason we're here. And then while you're down there, hit that little thumbs up button for us. I mean, I know you don't even think about it, but look, it makes such a difference because that allows us to meet new people and get out there a little bit broader and bring people in. And every time we bring in a new person, we bring in a new perspective, we bring in a new soul, we bring in a new pair of eyes and a new mouth and soul to share with us how story hits them and what it means to them. And that makes us all richer. So that's what we're all about here. So hit that button for us. And if this is maybe your first time, you haven't been on this channel before, hey, hit that subscription button because I got to tell you, the group we have here, man, on Discord and hanging out with us everywhere else is just the most amazing group of people that loves story, loves to talk about story, loves to hang out and talk about how this stuff moves them and changes them. And you can be a part of it. And when you become a part of it, it gives you a little bit of a tingle. When you know you found where you belong and you know you found your people and you slot yourself in there, gives you a little pep in your step, gives you a little bit of a tingle. And that is just a scientific fact. So I think that's it for us.
I do believe it is. First review. I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
You did great, man.
Thank you.
I'm so proud. Look, I got to tell you, I am just this journey with you. It's so special to me to see you get to this point where you're just digging into prose and story and letting it sink in and change it. I'm so proud. I'm so thrilled. This just absolutely makes so much worth it, man. I'm loving every minute of it.
Oh man, that's sweet. I appreciate that. My only fear is that I did the book justice. It deserves a good review. I hope I supplied that.
Well, something tells me, in your case, we're going to hear from Janny, so you'll know.
Yeah, we'll get a message from Janny as soon as this goes out.
Probably so. But hey, let us know in comments. Let us know if he did it justice to make you want to pick it up. That would be the ultimate vote of confidence.
Or if you did Gardens of the Moon justice to make somebody start Malazan, that'd be cool too.
So many people had told me, oh, get your slide rule ready, get your spreadsheets ready, if you're going to go into Malazan. It's like, I did not. And I did. I had discussions after every chapter on tap, and I had all these things to maybe help me get through, and I never used any of them because it's just so much of this world that what no one had told me. It's just off the chart bonkers and fun. It's just that artist going crazy and throwing it all out there, and I cannot recommend it enough. And if you've heard, oh man, that's a lot. It's a lot in the best way. Go in ready for a lot because it's going to give you so much, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Give it a shot, absolutely.
I mean, there's no staying away from a good story. It's as simple as that. If the story hits for you, no barrier will be enough. Whether it's that the story has 100 POVs and it's kind of weird, or that the prose is not your kind of thing. If you enjoy the story, it won't matter. Just stick with it.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. Well, you know what? I can't do better than that. That's it. We're that's it for us, man. The best outro ever. The outro guy right there.
Oh, I have like 8 titles from you now. This is becoming
an issue. The wild man with the outro. I'm going to I'm going to workshop.
We're going to get out of space on my business cards. You're going to have to consolidate.
Nah. Never happened.
It'll just flip over to the back.
There you go. It'll just have the bunch taped together. That's what we need. Thanks so much for joining us here on Talking Story.